investor relations at HPI. I spoke to Ben Cuzen and Hunter Lee, who are in our Dallas office towards the end of the summer. And we had a great conversation, covered Ben's background as a amateur and professional golfer, Hunter's career path into commercial real estate, the growth of the HPI Dallas office, and the Dallas market overall. Some really interesting life lessons from both of these guys and good insights into the Dallas market. So thanks again for joining us, and I hope you enjoy the conversation with Hunter and Ben.
Ben, why don't you just give me a little bit of background? Tell me what brought you to the States and how did you end up in real estate and how did you end up at HPI?
So a little bit of a unconventional story, but born and raised in South Africa, Durban city on the East Coast, on the beach, roughly 2 million square feet. 2 million people in the city.
You're real estate guys. Everything's perfect. You grew up surfing?
I did not. My brother did, but I was always playing some kind of sport, cricket and field hockey and all the sports that you don't really see too much here in the U.S. But started playing golf in high school, and upon graduating high school, wanted to continue playing golf, and I was probably just good enough where I wanted to chase the dream. It was end of July, and a recruiting company reached out to me and said, "Hey, can we just send your resume out?"
When you say recruiting company, what does that mean?
So basically, they're a recruiter for U.S. colleges to kind of for international athletes. So they just sent out my resume and some videos and all that kind of stuff to some colleges, and I'd never been to the States before, knew nothing about it. I couldn't tell you where Texas or New York was on a map, but I wanted to be here. And
I'm glad you got into real estate with no sense of direction or anything.
Yeah. So, shortly after them sending out the videos, I got a random call. It was like midnight from this Arkansas accent that is just kind of mind-blowing to me. He said, "Hey, come over. I'll buy you one-way ticket and don't worry about tuition for the first year and just come play golf. There's another South African guy coming with you. There's a guy from England. There's a guy from South America also joining the team." So I was like, this is pretty cool. So fast forward, 2-3 weeks later, I pack up my bag, all my belongings, and I had 2 bags of my golf clubs, and my mom was a mess at the airport and said goodbye to me, and landed in Little Rock, Arkansas in August. And I've never felt humidity like that in my entire life. It was insane.
So when you're leaving South Africa, is it winter or summer?
It's winter.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's the climate where I'm from is like San Diego.
It's lovely, beautiful.
Summers are like 85, winters are like 65. Really didn't know when seasons were changing. I know we had more rain in the winter, which was kind of how we knew. But landing here and it was obviously a huge culture change or shock. I had to survive because I was 18 years old. I was like, okay, I can't go home on the weekend if I want to. I really, got into playing, enjoyed college life and all that kind of stuff. And, I graduated with a finance degree. But all in all, I was here for a couple months, and I met my wife who played tennis at college, and I used to go practice with them in the evenings and all that kind of stuff, and we've been together ever since. So we just celebrated our 13th year wedding anniversary. So, and long story short, my wife is from Dallas, and that's how I ended up here, and this is always good to be home. So again, fast forward, I was in the golf world for a long time. I turned pro after college, chased that dream for a while, and ran out of talent and money pretty quick after being on the road for a while.
How did the reality compare to the kind of dream as you're kind of stepping into that world?
It's you learn a lot about yourself when you're on the road, and if you play bad for 2 days, you don't make a cent, and you're out of pocket basically $3,000-$4,000 every week.
And are you driving between tournaments?
Driving. And, had some guys that, sponsored me and backed me for a while, and just having that burden of, I've got to perform for these guys. But also it's my livelihood and just the competition of how many guys are actually doing that. So it was brutal at the time, but, learned so much about myself and, just developed even more grit than I feel like I was raised with, which now is proving valuable in real estate. And, Hunter and I talk about this all the time, but I wouldn't change anything that's happened before. It's kind of made me who I am today. And everybody can say that. But just kind of an unconventional route to get to office leasing where I'm sitting today. But it's, it's still paying dividends, and there's still a chip on my shoulder to go improve myself every single day, which will never leave. It's just really cool. And like, so far it's paid off, but there's far more that, I want to achieve personally. And then, now just with the growth of HPI, just been a small part of that has been really, really cool.
And how did you get into commercial real estate?
Yeah. So in the Gulf, I ended up kind of pivoting after being on the road. I wanted to own a golf operation, own a golf course. And since golf was and still kind of is, a passion of mine, I wanted to be around that. But like, while I was in the golf business, I kind of developed a interpersonal skill with people and members and all that kind of stuff, where I was around, successful people on a daily basis, and we were playing golf where I was better than every single one of them. And they kind of looked to me for advice on golf swing and all that kind of stuff. And, that kind of morphed into developing deeper relationships with a lot of people. So I was at a golf club that had a really small membership. And I kind of, when I wanted to make the change, I've been offered some lucrative jobs around the country in the golf business that I've been pursuing for years. I wanted to make the change. And when I got offered those jobs, I knew I couldn't commit to that. So immediately I made a change and said, okay, these are the guys that I'm really close with. And all of them were commercial real estate. And, all different facets, whether it be, industrial or property management or developers or leasing brokers or whatever it may be. So just really lean on that network and just said, hey, I want to learn more about what you guys do. I've been living in Dallas now for 13, 14 years, and just seeing kind of the growth of the city. It kind of also just morphed into, okay, if I'm going to do something, I want it to be in commercial real estate and lean on these guys that I've developed a relationship with through the previous career. And then they opened up so many doors to me. And then because I made a career change late, I wanted to be a part of a team or a shop that was growing, that I could see a lot more, a lot faster. I met Hunter, and I just kind of took a bet on that things were going to work out. And it has, 10x kind of what's happened. But that's kind of the story in a nutshell of where we are, where I am today.
Very cool.
But a key detail there that I think is worth mentioning is when he made the transition from the golf world to the real estate world, he quit his job without a job, right? And so he went to his boss at the time and said, hey, if I'm not going to be pursuing advancement in the golf world, then I don't need to take a spot on your staff. And I'm so as soon as you have my spot backfilled, I will bow out. And then, jumped into the real estate game, and, it's, he's been at it for 5 years, but I think people would tell you that he walks, talks, acts like he's been at it for 15 or 20. And so that's been a huge, that's what's allowed us to grow at the pace that we have, for sure.
And you guys are, the office is growing, but I feel like you all are really the face of the office. How hard was it for you to kind of transition from golf guy to CRE guy? For the people who saw you as the golf pro, their golf expert.
Yeah, that's something that is ever evolving and just changes all the time. I get imposter syndrome all the time about what am I doing? I shouldn't be doing what I'm doing now. But it is 100% drafting behind Hunter. Just kind of seeing what he's doing, and then also just having a competitive nature. I think that competitive spirit that we have in the office, but really between us, that is making me better, and then hopefully just pushing us harder every single day between kind of what we do on whether it be a deal or a culture or just growing the business. It helps a lot. And initially, I was really fighting, I don't want to be the golf guy in commercial real estate. And I really hid from that. I didn't want to play golf. I didn't want to do all that. And then, eventually I had to embrace that because it's a fastball of mine. And it's still, it's a passion. I can still play it at a pretty high level, I feel like. And just being able to leverage that with clients and brokers.
Some synergies are there, right? Some relationship building. You spend time with folks.
And it doesn't hurt that he can hit a ball 400 yards.
No other setting do you get to sit, either 4 or 5 hours at a time or 2 or 3 days at a time with a prospect or a broker, develop a genuine relationship, which, will pay off dividends for the next 30, 40 years, exactly. As opposed to just, hitting them, a couple times a year or a month or whatever it may be, just looking for something. as opposed to developing a deeper relationship. And golf affords that opportunity to me.
Well, thank you for the background. That's a great story. So, Hunter, how did you end up where you are?
My story's kind of lame after following that. So, I mean, I'm from a small town in West Texas. Graduated college, went to Baylor, moved to Dallas, got a job in the real estate business, and I've been working around for office owners on office assets with office brokers.
At what stage did you know?
Really, ever since.
When did you know you wanted to get started?
It's kind of by accident. I mean, I was kind of dead set on entering ministry full time. All the way through college, and then really had a change of heart really in my senior year. And so really kind of started from behind as it relates to we meet young kids now and they all kind of have a plan for their life, right? They know, I'm going to get this degree. I want to do this. I've done these internships. I had no credible internships. I worked as a programs director at a Christian sports camp for 3 summers. And then I interned for my dad cold calling, selling life insurance was the summer my intern for my senior year. What's funny is that I did that remotely from Waco so I could still have fun with my friends, and would call people that I'd known my whole life and asked them if my dad could come meet with them. And so that was my first experience in warm calling, leveraging relationships to kind of create positive outcomes. And really, kind of back to, your first question of how do we get here and how, why we've been able to grow the way we have. It's a lot of it is just relationships maturing and seasoning, and us seasoning as professionals and people and as men. I've been doing kind of one thing, swimming in one pool of water for a long time. And where we've benefited is just seeing seeds that we planted long ago sprout and grow, and then really surrounding ourselves with people where we can make sure that we can water them and put sunshine on them, right? But I think a lot of our growth is, we talk all the time, it's you have to be cultivating relationships in every stage of the game, because I think if you want to be in the asset game like we are, if you want to have assets under management, if you want to own assets, if you want to work with investors, it's a 5-year sales cycle, right? You can short circuit that in pure brokerage or in tenant rep or things of that nature, where there's a lease expiration and we're all running towards, hey, we've got to solve someone's problem in a 12 or 18 month period. But really, if you're in the asset game like we are largely, and you're about management and leasing assignments or joint ventures or development deals, it's a long sales cycle. And so we embrace that. Would be, I think, a big part of our success is we don't get discouraged by the fact that with some of our relationships, you are at square one, right? You are I've never met that guy before, and he just bought a building, so I'm probably not going to lease it for him today. I'm probably not going to manage it for him today, but I'm not going anywhere. And so I might as well call him and have a meeting with him, and we'll see where we are in 5 years.
Is that patient mindset unique in our world? Does that come from Richard and Dick and Kent, or do you think our competitors also view the world?
I think it's unique. I mean, I certainly think that it's a mantra that you have to take to be successful in the long run in our business. There's people that work in big brokerage firms that adopt that mentality because they have to, right? I mean, if you are cold calling for a living, right, and you are going to inform your long-term view of that profession on how you did day one, then you'll quit, right? Because you will hear no 1,000 times, or who are you 1,000 times, or what's HPI 1,000 times. And so, I mean, I think a lot of our ability to stay in the saddle and do what we've done and continue to do what we've done is because we do stand on the shoulders of giants, and we do have partners that have been in the game for a long time and have seen the peaks and valleys of industry and of economic cycles and of trends. Although I would be remiss if we didn't say we're the first that have ever run a largely office business and through a global pandemic where people stopped using office buildings. But we've that's been the best thing that ever happened to us, right? Because we stayed the course, right? And we kind of acknowledged to ourselves that this is a massive market where there's going to be a need for cogent strategies and thoughtful service providers to work through all of this stuff. So I'm kind of bouncing around, but I think, we just had, Jeff Swope, who's a giant in our business in Dallas. Early on, he gave me advice and said, you have to begin with the end in mind, right? And so leaving to join HPI when I was 28, I think was, largely a possibility because I was thinking more long-term than what are we going to be doing next year.
Right. Earlier on before we started recording, you told me that we're outgrowing our space.
Right.
Challenging time to be in the office business.
Sure.
So what are we doing that we need more people? I mean, it's obviously something's working.
Well, I think for better or worse, like we're in a people business, right? I mean, I think, to grow assets under management, you have to grow your workforce and you have to be creating opportunities for people to, one, meet their basic needs and provide for themselves today, but you also have to create a path where they can see themselves having advancement and growth, right, personally, professionally, and financially, right? They have to be able to see a path. And so, I think for us, we were a one-person leasing group for a long time, and we didn't grow very much in that era because you don't have the people you need in order to sufficiently grow the business. And so, we're fully committed to hiring the people we need to hire and staffing the way we need to staff in order to have the business we want, not the business we have today.
Right.
And so that's an investment for sure. But it's a worthwhile investment, right? And
does that mean, are you bullish on the Dallas office market?
I think we're bullish on the role we play in it. I think there will be a reset market-wide that we're going through right now. Leasing velocity is still really good. Ben can talk more about that, but the capital markets are they're completely upside down. And so, the deal that everybody already owns right now is a bad deal, frankly, and that's just probably the most succinct way for me to say it. And everyone will have to work through that, right? Some deals will get more time. Some deals won't. Some deals will sell because they have to. Pricing gets reset. So that'll be really interesting to watch. The inverse of it is, and I think why borrowers have held on to buildings as long as they have, is the leasing market here is still generally really good in the primary submarkets. That kind of influences, I think, why lenders are giving extensions and why borrowers are trying to hang on to their buildings. It's because they look at their leasing activity report and they're like, I still got deals I'm working.
Yeah, and I mean, end of the day, just so fortunate to be in Dallas and DFW, but I mean, also just in Texas. I mean, just with the eyes and capital that's coming into the state, but was recently into DFW. Just kind of the organic growth of the city, with limited barriers on where you can go. North and south on the tollway, going east and west. The city is growing, and there's offices getting developed all over the place. I think, and then also just like something you said earlier, like I think just HPI, like the growth that we've had has just also been, we're hanging skins on the wall now and have, case studies and stories that we can tell ownership groups. And I think, us owning real estate, always, the brokerage community can view that either way, but it's really paying off for us because we can really relate to ownership groups and understand how to maximize their investment in the real estate and make the real estate play successful for them. So we understand, whenever we do lease transactions, what is the yield for our client? Is that yield suitable for what they're trying to do for their investors or for them personally? And that's on a deal-by-deal basis, whether it's 2,000 square feet or 25,000 square feet. We view that through the same lens. And again, I think that goes to patience. Like, we want to tell that story and tell it selectively. So we've kind of grown our portfolio in strategic markets and with the right partnership groups where, we want to do multiple deals together over the next 20 to 30 years and, growing the team around us to execute that business plan for HPI, but also for our clients is at the forefront of what we do.
Somebody said this to me a long time ago. They said, you always get hit by the train you don't see coming down the track. You guys survived the pandemic. You're surviving this current environment. What besides the obvious things, what keeps you up at night about either Dallas or the business or where the world's going to be over the next 36 months?
I think when we look at the business, right, I think we want to make sure that we perform on people that have entrusted their assets to us, right? And so, I think for me, what keeps me up at night is like, I love growing the business. Like, that's what's fun to me. That's what I enjoy the most about my role and what I do. But we have to perform, right? And we have to keep the promises we've made, right? And so you get back to why grow your team, why add headcount, why do all these things? Well, it's because we've been entrusted with billions of dollars of frankly, to quote the real estate term, other people's money, right? And we need to perform. Yeah. We need to execute. And so I think that's, the one leading the business. That's kind of what I worry about on the macro stuff. I think we've all really tried to adopt a mentality of like, we only need to worry about that which is within our control. Right. And I cannot control the Fed. I cannot control pandemics. I cannot control people's worldview around where they work from. Although I have very strong opinions about it, we've taken a rigid discipline that we're going to control the things that are within our control. And that just minimizes the distractions, right? Like, people love to send around articles around who's working from home for forever and who's coming back to the office. And I don't read them and I don't forward them and I don't, because it doesn't change anything for us as it relates to, we have clients, we have assets, we have people we have to take care of. And those are the things that we're going to be rigidly focused on because that's what I can control.
Agree 1,000%, right? There's only so much bandwidth we all have individually. Right. Let's worry about the stuff we can actually impact.
Right. Golf analogy, it's the next shot in front of you. Just like that's all you can control. You can't think about where it's going to end up. But like, just on the brokerage side is, to Hunter's point, it's how do we just maximize effort within the team to either lease a space or a building or complete a transaction. Yep. And that's kind of what we wake up doing. And then also just thinking strategically about trends that we see within the city, and we can talk about that later on. But there's been fundamental shifts, I think, on economics, but also kind of where tenants or companies are looking within DFW, which has been interesting for us to follow over the last really 12 months. I think there's been a shift, and that's something that we just evaluate as a team on a weekly basis. And again, it's just like these short-term goals that we have in place now that really help us execute, where I think the world is different now. We don't know what's going to look like in 6 months. So just really dialing it back and say, okay, this week, what can we execute? And then just go from there.
Yeah, we don't allow annual goals. Like we've kind of eliminated that from our thinking in our group. When January 1st rolls around, it's another month on the calendar. What did we do well in December that we can double down on? What needs to change? Because our business is moving so quickly, things are changing so quickly. Demand is fickle. You can't pin it down perfectly. And so we just need to be optimizing the way we look at our goals over a long period of time, but breaking it down into short increments. Right. Because that's the best way to measure success is like, okay, what are we going to do over the next 30 days to put ourselves in a position to have a great year? But when you make these big annual goals, half the time you get to October and you're like, well, shoot, I'm way off the mark, and I don't know how I'm gonna, get the ship turned around. And so we've seen that pay out in dividends because, like, you look at these buildings, and if it's 50% leased today, and you say we're going to get it to 85% lease this year, well, that's a really nice sentence and a great thing to say, but practically speaking, like, it's really hard to like just will that into existence. And so if you look at it and say, okay, over the next 30 days, these spaces or these tenants or these brokers are going to be people that I'm going to touch with this information or move the needle on this, then if you do that 12 months in a row, then you might actually achieve that goal. So, and then, we're just, like Ben said, we're just seeing, things that have historically been really good in our market are soft. I mean, legacy, there's, Wall Street Journal article after Wall Street Journal article written about suburban build-to-suits happening in Plano and Frisco. Well, that market is really turned off. We'll have a white paper coming out on this in the next 30 days. Like, if you look at the tour velocity and the transaction velocity in the lower tollway, 80s vintage office, institutionally owned, largely renovated, rising rates, but rising concessions, all of the demand that historically was skipping over the lower tollway and going to legacy has now come back and said, well, this is actually the center of the city. This is actually the best geographic place to be from a labor demographic study. And so I'm going to go back and look at second generation options here. And so we've seen that pay out in our portfolio, in huge ways. And I think the rest of the market would agree with that sentiment.
I think it's also interesting. Like, I feel like in the last 12 months, there's been a resurgence of corporate reloads. they're smaller than they used to be.
Right. They're not 1 million feet,
but they're still happening.
Right.
And they're happening, and they planting a flag that before was 5,000 square feet for 24 months. Now it's 30,000 square feet. We'll do a 5 or 10 year deal, but we want a path to grow. And then so I think, we had conversations with these corporate realtors recently, and there's been a few from around the country where the heat map for their employees or prospective talent pool that they will recruit from drops the pin at Tollway and 635.
Okay.
And so that's always like the first search. And now with the availability of space and with some, really quality assets that have been renovated, the lower Tollway just seems like it's far outpaced legacy as far as absorption. Rates have increased significantly, surpassed legacy. And again, we're finalizing this data, but it'll be really interesting once we publish that, because this is really a flip in a submarket where there was a lot of capital looking at legacy, and it's been a complete shift now to the lower Tollway.
And then pivoting back to kind of Uptown Preston Center CBD, one thing I think you'll continue to see is AmLaw 100 law firms, if they're not in Dallas, if they don't have an office in Dallas, they will over the next 36 months. And it may not be 100,000 feet, but they will all grab 3,000 to 5,000 feet or 10,000 feet and do a short-term lease and begin to start to try to recruit legal talent. And a lot of that has to do with the financial services firms and the professional services firms that have relocated offices here or have planned in regional hubs here. Goldman Sachs taking 800,000 feet in the heart of Uptown, Fortress signing a massive lease. We could give you data point after data point after data point of those, service providers are going to follow those transactions, right? Because they're going to want to be close to where that transaction volume is. And so I think you'll see in Uptown and Preston Center more of that type of activity, which is great for absorption because it won't dictate new construction as much as it will, let's go find second generation space that we can jump in for 3 to 5 years and kind of see how Dallas treats us as a firm and then go from there.
So if I'm a Joe corporate relo guy from Chicago or New York, and I don't know HPI, but I give you all a call to say, coming to Dallas, we need 5,000 feet. What should I expect from my experience with you? Why do I want to work with HPI versus somebody across the street?
That's all the truth, right? I think we're going to be here a long time, and life's too short to try to speed. And so I think you'll find us to be really honest about, what role we would want to play in helping you. And if we're the right person to do that, great. And if we're not, that's also okay too. Just because, again, we're not trying to eat the elephant in one bite this year and accomplish all of our goals in life this year. We're going to be here a long time. I think Dallas is an unbelievably welcoming business community. And, generally success in the business community here is celebrated by everyone. And I think that would, ring true. Like, people genuinely want to help people, right? We meet with our competitors weekly, daily, right? And we send our young people to meet with our competitors. It's a really collaborative environment, largely because historically speaking, there's been plenty for everyone to do. This is a 300 million square foot office market, and we want to dominate it, but we can't do all of it, right? And so that's, I think, generally ring true for us and the people we compete with. And then the last comment I would make on that front is I really do feel like the volatility in the marketplace has allowed for the boutique. I don't like the term boutique because we're not small, but for private companies that operate in a regional capacity that think big to win big, because we can just do things more uniquely. We can co-invest, we can JV, we can, there's all these different things we can do that a big public company kind of has to, there's just a lot of red tape that they have to run through. And so I think we'll bear fruit of that over the next 5 years. And I'm really excited about that, just to be collaborative and nimble and to get to know quickly if it's no, but to be able to just think in a unique way to the rest of the marketplace.
Yeah, I've heard John Erickson and other partners say this more than once. It really resonates with me. We are in the profit business, not the fee business.
Right.
And I think it doesn't matter if it's leasing, if it's investments, if it's management. And you said it early on, we try to align ourselves with our clients. We can do that because if we buy something, we typically have more skin in the game than anybody else.
Right. Ben uses golf analogies. I use football analogies. I just want to win. Yes, I want to play quarterback. I want to score touchdowns. I want the ball. But I want to win more. And so if I need to play right guard and block, I'll do it. As long as we win. I think certainly everyone at the partner level in our firm has that mentality, right? And is perfectly fine to take less or play a smaller role or be on a team versus working alone, because you just win more when you're on a team. And so I know for certain we've seen that ring true here in our office.
I think just with HPI, been around for 32 years and just have a wealth of experience in all, facets of commercial real estate. So, just if somebody comes to Dallas and they want to look at industrial or self-storage or whatever it may be, we have an expert in that field. And, just been able to, whether they sit in Austin or sit here, we can figure it out just given the culture and team that we have.
Yeah, it's a very collaborative environment. All right, one last thing, and then we'll get back to our day jobs. Let's pretend that I've turned the mic off. If there was one thing that you were going to ask Hunter or say about Hunter off mic, what story or what question would you have for Hunter?
The story. They're starting to add up.
Remember, he gets his saving back.
Oh, there's some really, really good ones. We need to do one where we're sipping on a bourbon. Where we can tell some fun stories. I'd say, question would be 5 years ago, did you think HPI would be where it is today? And if so, what does the next 5 years look like to you?
So we always talk about this when we're hiring people. Ben is sometimes he wants to be the brakes on hiring people because it's natural. Are we going to have enough for them to do? Is there going to be enough to go around? Is there? And those are human. That's the way we all feel and think, right? My general view of this whole thing for me has been coming to work every day is an exercise in faith. Every time we hire someone, it's an exercise in faith that there will be enough to do, that there will be enough to go around. And so did I know we would be where we are today 5 years ago? No. Was I willing to continue to just take a step to try to get there? Yes. I think over the next 5 years, we'll just continue to do what we've done, which is try to do things in incremental bite-size, fashion of tomorrow I'm going to do everything I can to position myself 5 years from now to be where I want to be. And it's been really fun, right? And the relationships along the way. I thought you were going to question me about who's stronger when we work out.
That's been good. That's been good.
So Ben and I work out together twice a week. It's also just therapy, basically. We impressed ourselves yesterday. We were pretty proud. So my question for you, I guess I would ask you the same question as 5 years ago when you quit your job to lease office space instead of swinging a golf club. Has it looked like you thought it would, or then what?
They talk about a leap of faith.
Yeah.
So I think what we've achieved is not a surprise to me, but kind of just how it looks and feels today is different. Like I would say, and just kind of, I guess to clarify that, I'm more excited today than I was 5 years ago because now I really see the potential and see what we've done, and just really want to keep on growing that. So really didn't know what I didn't know, 5 years ago, and I didn't know how this was going to look. I really didn't know much about the industry, but knew that there was something special at HPI and that we could really grow something cool. And now we have to execute, I feel like. But it's grown so organically, and we've had so much fun doing it, and it's been so competitive. And we don't look back enough at the wins that we've had. Yeah. Just looking at that now, we've done so much, and now it's like we have such good momentum, and now it's more just like executing and how do we do it with the right partners and right people around the city, because the opportunity is there. And I think 2024 is going to be really interesting, just given, capital markets and what's happening. And, we just want to be in position to take advantage of that. But again, I'm not surprised where we are, but it's been a fun ride to get here. And I'm more fired up about, what's coming.
Well, thanks, guys. I appreciate the time.
Wait, last question. You versus Cortland Lowe, neutral golf course.
Neutral golf course.
I
got to back myself all day.
Who do you want carrying your bag?
Probably Blackwell.
What? Okay.
I hope you enjoyed my conversation with Ben and Hunter in our Dallas office. Two really great guys, rising stars in the Dallas commercial real estate scene. If you have any questions about today's show, if you want to connect with Hunter or Ben or myself, please feel free to reach out. Thanks again for listening, and look forward to many more great conversations in 2025.